Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross, and as always told, Out of Voice Radio. So today, I'm showing you another exciting new card from the upcoming Forbidden Light expansion. It's a new Pheromosa, and once again, huge shout out to Antoine Boulay, who is such a lovely man. He tweeted me a picture of this card, and he included a translation while tagging me. That's what a lovely man Antoine Boulay is. And I've had a whole bunch of people telling me, Ross, when can I learn about the Pheromosa? Can you please tell me about the Pheromosa? Well, I've got good news, ladies and gentlemen. The answer is yes. And the answer is today. Let's have a look at the Pheromosa. So, first things first. It is a grass Pokemon, and it's a basic grass Pokemon, so it means we can use Ether Paradise Conservation Area to reduce any damage done to it by 30. Now, I know people may not do so, and it's one of these stadiums I talk about. It's in your opponent's hand. Your opponent decides if the stadium is in play when they attack. If they play a field blower and then attack, then you don't get the damage reduced. If they put another stadium in play instead, maybe a parallel city, then the damage doesn't get reduced. But if they don't, then it does. And we are off and rolling. And heck, while we're here, why don't we add in a bit of the old Fighting Fury belt as well, which will give you an extra 40 HP. That gives you an extra 70 HP, effectively, and that starts looking pretty gosh darn nice. Now, in terms of HP, we have got 110, which is... it's alright for a basic Pokemon, it's not amazing. But then again, Pheromosa in the video game is very fast, very hard-hitting, but gets knocked out pretty gosh darned easily. Speaking of which, we have a retreat cost here of nothing, which we should. Pheromosa's speed in the video games is ridiculous, and any retreat cost here would be an absolute travesty. Weakness to fire is a bit of an issue with Volcanion running around, and these fire decks are starting to see a bit more play, which we expect to continue with the inevitable rise of metal. So yeah, maybe not the best weakness ever. Being a grass Pokemon means you're hitting weakness against stuff like Greninja and the upcoming Greninja GX, both of which is pretty good. So we've got some decent weakness here. Lycanroc as well, which is seeing quite a lot of play. This is not a bad typing to have at the moment. So what does it actually do? 1 colorless energy, 20 damage. It's fine, I suppose. It's not terrible. Now, one thing I will say, and it's a little bit awkward, but we have got the Promo Lurantis. The Promo Lurantis says that all of your fire and grass Pokemon do an extra 20 damage. And if you've got a Pokemon like that, what you really want is a basic grass Pokemon that attacks for 0 energy that you can use to get rolling. Well, we have that here. 20 damage with 2 Lurantis goes up to 60 damage, with a Choice Band goes up to 90 damage, and then doubled is 180. So that's not bad. But 20 for 1 energy, this is about as uninspiring as attacks get. It's fine, you'll do alright, and at least Pheromosa's ridiculous speed is matched by the free retreat and the single energy attack. But honestly, it's not a particularly exciting attack, and I don't think we need to spend any more time talking about it. But the second attack is exciting, and we do need to spend a couple of minutes talking about this one, because this one could see a bit of play. For 2 grass and 1 colorless energy, you do 90 damage. But if you've got exactly 1 prize card left, you do 180 damage. Ladies and gentlemen, 180 damage for free energy on a basic Pokemon is just flat out great. It is a good attack. Let's take something like Ho-Oh GX. Well, Ho-Oh GX does 180 for 4 energy, and that's so good, everybody's playing it. Of course, this is 1 fewer energy, but you've got to have 1 prize remaining. The irony is that doing 180 damage, well, that KOs a lot of stuff. KOs a Tapu Lele outright, which is quite nice. KOs a Buzzwole if you had a Fighting Fury bout. And even if you want to KO something like a Zoroark or a Golisopod, all you need to do is add a Choice Band, you're hitting 210, and you are off. The annoying thing being, of course, you're only doing this much damage if you've got one prize card remaining, at which point you don't need to KO a GX to win the game. Any KO on any Pokemon, no matter how weak, will grant you the victory. But that's not always the way it goes. There's been plenty of Ho-Oh games where, oh, would you believe it, you've got one prize remaining and there's just a Ho-Oh out here. You've got to. It's what we refer to as a 7-prize game. Your opponent tries to make you KO an odd number of non-GX Pokemon so that you've got to KO a GX Pokemon and essentially take 7 prizes in order to win the game. So it's all well and good sitting here saying, well, you're not going to need to KO a GX when you've only got one prize remaining, but your opponent might not give you that option. And it's quite nice to have this. It's quite nice to have a Pokemon where you can sit here and just take out a GX Pokemon if you need to do so at the end of the game. And let's face it, this could put you in a really favourable exchange. Let's say you're playing a Tapu Bulu deck. We'll talk more about the specifics of that in a moment. But you might not want to have any Tapu Bulu on the field. You might want to have only non-GX Pokemon in play because your opponent's got 2 prizes remaining. So you get 1 or 2 of these Pheromosa out, and then next turn you go and take a KO. You don't leave a 2-prize liability on your bench. Now, speaking of Tapu Bulu, this, of course, could be a good fit in a Vikavolt deck. And yes, I'm sorry, that is actually the pronunciation. I'm sorry. Because you need to get the energy on there somehow. This Pheromosa attacks for free energy. So, using something like Vikavolt Strong Charge, for instance, going and getting a Grass and a Lightning on here straight away, then just whipping on one last energy, that can go and get you the win. It's what you're doing for Tapu Bulu. This has the same attack cost as Nature's Judgment. So actually, it fits quite nicely into that deck. Although, of course, it's not the only option for getting the energy on there. Might I remind you of counter energy? If you are behind on prizes, then you can go ahead and pop the energy. Oh, no, wait! You cannot possibly be behind on prizes and have 1 prize remaining. Worst case scenario, you are even on prizes. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, you can't use counter energy for Pheromosa because you cannot be behind on prizes and only have 1 prize remaining. And like a bunch of cards we've looked at over the past few days, we end up in this same situation where it's just annoying. To be fair, if you're playing this in a Vikavolt deck, you're good. Because you're going to be able to get the energy on there, and maybe you've run out of Tapu Bulu, or maybe you just don't want to be relying on Pokemon with a heavy retreat cost. Pheromosa's got 0 retreat, and actually that's really nice, because it means if you start with it, you can just retreat it into whatever you want. And if you're sitting there smashing with a Tapu Bulu, and your opponent uses a Guzma to bring up and KO a Pheromosa, that's not bad, ladies and gentlemen, because it means they're not going after your main attacker here. I want to like this, and I want to like it as a tech in the late game to take your last prize, and it could work, and it has got free retreat. But getting the energy on there is awkward, and it doesn't really do anything Tapu Bulu doesn't do. Tapu Bulu does 180 damage for the same attack cost, and has no weakness. Although it does give up 2 prizes, but then again, that's irrelevant, because by the time you use Pheromosa, at least to its maximum potential, any KO will win the game for you, so it doesn't really matter. I still think it's worth putting into grass decks. I think the free retreat is a huge selling point, and I think the fact that you can use this in the late game if you're out of Tapu Bulu or whatever is quite nice. But honestly, I don't know that it does enough extra above the cards we already have. Being that it's a useful tech, I am going to go ahead and give it a nice ordinary, everyday, run-of-the-mill, garden variety, standard, free Wassies. But as with all of these cards, ladies and gentlemen, maybe you disagree. That's alright. That is why the lovely programmers over at YouTube made a comment section. So go nuts, but be nice. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and so on, you can do so by going to patreon.com/PTCGRadio. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.